Stop the cap.
So I'm sitting here watching this news interview of Laura Ingram with I don't know whether it's the Prime Minister of Poland. It's got a clip of him talking to the European Union. His English is damn near perfect. Obviously, he has a Polish accent, but the way he speaks, the way he articulates himself, sounds like he spent a considerable time in the West. But I have to say that, and this is kind of going into the other video I did, um, about white folks, because somebody was asking me about white people forming, what was it? White people forming all white organizations. But and any white people are fucked up, and I'm gonna tell you why I say white people are fucked up. There is a deep pathology there, and maybe it's tied to their survival, but there's this sense of like self-righteous indignation that white people exhibit that seems to be completely deprived of context and history, right? Like they're so ahistorical it's not even funny, and they only operate in the here and the now. I mean, and this is the part that kills me, the way that African Americans especially, we somehow derive our moral compass, from white people, and their bastardized version of Christianity that they gave West Africans. I mean, it just kills me, when I watch this shit. So I'm watching, Laura Ingram in this clip, and the Polish guy, like, basically the whole thing is America has an immigration problem, and Europe has an immigration problem, and so white people, unite, form Voltron, Dinosaur, freaking, Power Rangers type of, come together, and we must defend whiteness and white culture and white Western civilization from the savage hordes of the immigrants, the illegal immigrants. It's like completely deprived of like what's actually going on. Why are they getting flooded, with these immigrant populations, right? And then they make these arguments about, like, oh, if Western civilization is so bad, right? They play the victim. Oh, if Western civilization is so bad, why do these immigrant populations? Why do they want to come to Europe? Well, you've destabilized their regions. Y'all not gonna talk about that. You're not going to talk about the United States and how it's destabilized, Central and, South America or Latin America. Nobody's going to talk about that, right? How the drugs go, the guns go south and the drugs come north, right? Nobody's going to talk about that. Nobody's going to talk about the Iran Contras. Nobody's going to talk about the way that the United States has, disrupted, any sort of socialism or socialist leaders in Latin America, right? And they always want to, like, label it as communism, right? We're not going to talk about that, right? We're not going to talk about how the United States and European powers destabilized the Middle East, right? It's the same argument I make about Africa when they want to talk about, Boko Haram and Al Shabaab and all these. Africans don't manufacture their own weapons. Africans, all those Africans that you see with their heads wrapped and they're, sitting on top of a tank or a jeep, shaking their AK-47s. Those AK-47s were not made in Africa. Africans don't manufacture their own weapons. You know what I'm saying? And there's very few weapons that the Arabs manufacture. There's, like, I mean, Saudi Arabia has, like, a military, I don't know, like it's called SAMI, but they have a defense contractor where they're trying to produce weapons themselves. They're probably getting the help from the West because, again, the West wants to stay, like, friendly and whatnot, even though they're losing that because of BRICS and what's going on with Putin and the new I forget what his name is, but I'm talking about, the new younger guy that's like the king of Saudi Arabia. Um, but you got United Arab Emirates, and the only gun, and I remember when they were selling this gun, the Caracal, and they were selling the Caracal, which is basically like a Glock style pistol. But other than that, like, I don't know of any rifles, that are made in the Middle East. I know Egypt, had a rifle like back in the day, like in like the 1940s or something like that. But beyond that, like, all the, again, AK-47s, AR-15s, or M4s and stuff like you see terrorists having in the Middle East. All of those are weapons that are manufactured in the West. So tell me how they got those weapons. We all know why the West is there. We all know why European and American nations and interests are there, because those people are sitting on oil. If they weren't sitting on oil, they wouldn't fucking care. They wouldn't be in the Middle East. But they go in there, they do all this shit. They destabilize the region, right? They have their little proxy wars and whatnot. I mean, go look up how the United States gave weapons to Saddam Hussein, to fight, the Iranians. Go look at how even with the Iran Contras, the United States also gave weapons to, the Iranians. Like that's the funny part. You gave weapons to the Iraqis, then you also gave weapons to the Iranians. They hate each other, right? They had their little war with the Besiege and all that other shit, right? So like, this stuff has been playing both sides, has been going on for a very long time. It just depends on what the interests are at the moment, right? Then you got and the crazy thing, guess how Iran got its weapons? During the Iran Contras, they got it through Israel. Israel of all people, or all places, right? So shit is just retarded. But anyway, all this destabilization going on. And the fact of the matter, and I'm saying Europe has had this issue for a very long time, right? We all know that European birth rates are trash. White people's birth rates the world over are trash. Okay? And the stupid thing is like, white people, like the white racist and the white supremacists, they want more white babies, but yet they have a capitalist system where the white oligarchs make it difficult for your average white person to maintain, what is like the ideal standard of how they think white people should be living, right? And so white people aren't having babies. So then the white oligarchs got to come in, and then they got to import and bring in, right, freaking immigrant workers to come work. Right. This is why they had that whole thing with that Algerian boy getting killed in France. And then the Algerians and the Muslims went and started tearing shit up. Right. Because back in, I think it was like the 1970s, and also I think in the 1990s, they brought in a whole bunch of these people. They put them out where in France, it's the opposite. Like in America, if you're closer to the city, like the ghettos are like, you got downtown. That's where all the economic activity happens. Then outside of downtown and like kind of sprawls out, that's where you have the older homes, the old city, America, especially in cities like Philadelphia, right? That's where the ghetto is, right? And then because of, the 1968 or 1965 all the way up to 1968, all that, the civil rights movement, the race riots of 1967, everything, that you had white flight, to the suburbs. I mean, it happened before that, because you had the whole, redlining and the whole creation of the suburbs and racial housing covenants back at the end of World War II that black people couldn't get into. But there was a white flight out of the cities into the suburbs after, the race riots of 1967. So the suburbs is where the well-to-do white people live, and the city is where the poor and the impoverished live. Even though white people are starting to try to take back this cities through gentrification and all that other shit. But in France, it's the opposite. The suburbs are basically where the slums are. All out on the outskirts, of Paris, right? On the outskirts. That's where the poors live, right? And the Europeans, they do this all the time, right? And they go and they're like, okay, we're short on workers, our birth rates are trash. The capitalists are thinking, okay, we have a labor shortage. What do? Bring in some migrant workers. So they bring in the migrant workers, which are the parents. Whether the parents are bringing them with them their families, or they're having families while they're here and they're working, right? Because there's two things going on. One, there's a labor shortage, and two, we don't want to have to pay our own people, right? This is where the contradiction of white supremacy comes in. I'm like, how is that white supremacy when you don't like capitalism and white supremacy contradict each other? Is anybody like getting that? Do y'all get that? How they contradict each other? Because the white oligarchs don't even want to pay white people livable wages to produce, to feel comfortable, young white people to feel comfortable to get married and have children and purchase homes and everything. So then they go out and they bring in the immigrants, right? But then the immigrants come into the country, then they start having babies, right? But they were only brought there to work those jobs, those bullshit jobs for bullshit wages that you really can't support and raise a family on, right? But it's better than what was going on in their second world country that was already, screwed up with neo-colonialism and all that stuff, right? Because the French have been running shit in Algeria, since I don't know, since forever. They've been running all of North Africa and the Francophone nations and whatnot. They've been doing that shit since forever. Maybe not Egypt. I think the British were the ones that were running Egypt, but the rest of that, all that, North Africa, Morocco, Libya, Tunisia, Algeria, all that has been run by the French because the French, the shit is like right there, right? The Foreign Legion, right? Y'all remember that? So the thing that happens is the first generation, the parents, they get there, they're working, they're happy to be working, they start making babies. The government goes and they build the houses out there in the suburbs that later are not maintained and later become slums. But then you have the children of those immigrant parents that are born in France and they speak French and they understand the culture and they understand a lot more things that the parents don't understand. And the reality is they don't have anything for the children. The Europeans that brought the parents there, they don't have anything for the children, right? They don't have any place for them because, again, the parents were brought there to fill the labor shortage at the time that the labor shortage existed. Sometimes it goes away, sometimes it comes back, but it's not consistent. So the next generation comes into the environment and there's nothing there for them. And they're angry and they're living in squalor and they also can't get their lives started. So then here comes, you sprinkle some Islam on top of that, and then you have all the U.S. foreign policy, European Union, U.S. led coalition shit going on in the Middle East, right? Where Muslims are getting killed and 1,000 Iraqis are, a million Iraqis are dead and weapons of mass destruction. Nobody knows where the weapons of mass destruction are and all that other shit, right? And then it starts looking like an attack on Muslims and an attack on Islam, right? So then the young Muslim men that can't get their lives started, can't make any money, can't purchase a house, can't live, the dream. I don't know what in America we have the American dream. I don't know what that shit is in France. You know what I mean? But they can't live and operate like that. So then, what ends up happening? They become radicalized. And the next thing they're running around screaming Allahu Akbar, trying to blow shit up, trying to stab shit up, trying to run people over, trying to shoot the shit up. Like that's what happens. right? Because they're marginalized. Sprinkle that on top of that. They're marginalized. They're mistreated. They're not recognized. The French people are spitting on them, saying, "Go back to your country." Da 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 da. They're like, "Bitch, I was fucking born here." Yeah. Again, this is what white people do. Okay. And what's so crazy is the average white person doesn't get this. The average white person is like, they need to go back to their own country. They're just here invading our spaces and right, because they're not tuned in to the fact that it was the white oligarchy and the capitalist and the business class, which was the group that brought them in there in the first place. Right? These people have no context of history. And so then you have what happened recently with the Syrian refugee. Again, the whole destabilization of Syria, and these people are flooding into Europe. They're just walking. They're just straight walking, right? And I say the same thing about the U.S. border, right? It's like, okay, if you don't want these people coming up here, you might want to do things to stabilize the regions down there, right? Because again, the U.S. The U.S.'s foreign policy is just so weird because, right, they throw money all around because they want to get UN votes, right? They want to have this sphere of influence. You have the three superpowers, the United States, or four, let's say go four collective superpowers. United States, the European Union, I'm gonna put all that together, Russia and China. Those are the fucking superpowers, right? And so, they're running around, freaking, making sure that that China doesn't get a stronghold in anything and Russia doesn't get a stronghold in anything. And that's why you see all these billions of dollars leaving the United States going elsewhere, right? Because these are power plays, right? You either buy, other people to be on your side and be a part of your coalition, right? Or you throw or you provide them with some sort of protection. We'll be your bodyguards. We'll protect you if you get attacked by some nation that's your neighbor that you have centuries of beef with. We'll make sure that they don't do anything because we got the biggest guns and the thermonuclear weapons and the bombs and all that other shit, right? And we have the strongest navy in the world. So ain't nobody gonna fuck with you if you side with us, right? But with the BRICS shit, you start seeing some of these smaller nations that are like, yo, you've done nothing but exploit us. Again, talking about the United States, you've done nothing but exploit us, right? We haven't gained anything, from our relationship with you. Same thing with the whole Niger, France, situation. You know what I mean? Like again, yesterday's price is not today's price when it comes to the uranium that France uses to power its nuclear power plants. You see? And so, what was I saying? I was going somewhere with the whole situation. Give me 1 second. I remember the whole, the areas that are destabilized. Again, the West went into these areas and destabilized them, and it doesn't want to do anything. It wants to just basically operate on benign neglect. It reminds me of that scene in what is it? What was the name of that movie? Charlie Wilson's War, where he's sitting at the table and is played by Tom Hanks's character, where he's like, let me get $2 million for a school, and he was saying that literally, 50% of the population is under the age, I think what he said, under the age of 14 or something like that. Right, basically saying you got a bunch of young men that are about to transition into adulthood that don't have any future, right? Because we've been here, we trained the Mujahideen, right? This is in Afghanistan, and he was like, we should build a school there, basically give these young men guidance, a future, so on and so forth, and they basically told him no. And so, basically that was like the antecedent to what ultimately ended up happening, with, 9/11 and Osama bin Laden and all that other stuff, right? Because here you got Osama bin Laden, a Saudi, he goes, to Afghanistan, and then he's able to influence these people who feel that they've been wronged and marginalized and abandoned by the United States. You see? So, Again, the white people, Western powers, Western civilizations, they always go into some place. They do what is beneficial or advantageous to them, or so they think for the moment. They only think in the short term, right? And then they leave, and then like the problem festers, and it's like an abscess. It's like a I shouldn't say abscess. It's like a festering wound, right? And they don't clean the wound, and now there's maggots in it laying eggs, and now they get sepsis, and now they gotta now you gotta deal with all these issues that could kill you, right? But what does the United States do? Nothing. What is Europe do? Nothing. Are they going to go, oh, maybe we should help stabilize the Middle East, stabilize it, so therefore those people will be happy to live where they live because they can live their comfortable lives there, right? And we don't have to deal with them trying to come over here, right? So again, same thing with Latin America and South America, right? I mean, even with the Latin America and South America, the whole thing with people are talking about the president of what is it, El Salvador, the young guy, right? I think, what is he, like 34, 35, something like that. Anyway, he he became president. Basically, he's locking up all the cartel people left and right. People are bitching, oh, it's inhumane conditions and da 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 da. What would you have him do? First off, the MS-13 was that shit. How do you say that shit? The Las Salvatruches or some shit like that. Anyway, many of them they came to America illegally. They got immersed in American gang culture, right? Then got deported. Then went back to El Salvador and brought American gangster culture with them. And so they've been having to deal with those problems, for a very long time. Same with Mexico, and the cartels. I mean, such a fantastic movie. It to me is Sicario, and the complicated nature of the U.S.'s relationship with Mexico and the cartels and the president of Mexico and everything. That movie to me like really embodies the complexity of how much the U.S. doesn't care. Oh, we thought it was terrorists coming across the border, so then you can take the gloves off. Oh shit, we were wrong. Okay, we're pulling out. We don't care. Who we're leaving on the ground. Leave the toys there. Leave everything there. We're pulling out because this is now an international issue and blah 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 blah. Especially in the second movie, where they basically killed a bunch of Mexican police officers, and then that became a problematic international issue. Like, these are the type of things that go on. Nations don't have friends; they have interest. And that is how, all of this functions. But the way that white people, the way that European people sit there, the simple-minded people, they think it's just some cut and dry, we're the West and we're so great, and we have a great Western white civilization, and all these other dirty minorities want to come over here and move in on our shit because they want our way of life, because they haven't built it, for themselves and their nation, right? Just completely ignore, the freaking keeping despots in power that the Western powers have done, completely ignore exploiting them for their resources, completely ignore replacing a freaking elected leaders like Mossadegh of Iran with the Shah of Iran, and then the whole reason why the Ayatollah Khomeini got put in place, and why or got put up there, and why Iran is the way that it is, today. Again, go look at, type in Iran in the 1950s, because that's when the U.S. was there. It's very liberal. People were doing whatever and whatnot. But again, it was all there. Again, British petroleum. There's no, Britain doesn't have any petroleum, right? But it was all the Shah of Iran was put there to help facilitate, taking the resources, the oil, out of Iran. That's what the West does. And so you have you know, all these problems that literally went on all throughout the 20th century, right? And white people don't want to own it. And again, this is why they don't want to teach CRT in school. They don't want to teach real history in school about the U.S.'s involvement. It's just like that crap in the freaking Call of Duty, the new Call of Duty, the first one, not Modern Warfare 2. Which Call of Duty is this? Call of Duty. Hold on, let me go over to my gaming center. What is this? Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Yeah, the one for what is this? The one for Xbox One. Okay, right. And in that game, there is a blatant lie. What is this called? It's called because basically they blamed all the atrocities on what is it? What is it? What is that called? What is the highway of hell? Iraq. I think it's Iraq, or it might be Kuwait. What was it? The term highway of hell in the context of Iraq is often used to refer to a dangerous stretch of road. One notable example is Highway 1, also known as Route Irish, which connects Baghdad to the international airport to the green zone of Baghdad. During the Iraq War, this road was considered one of the most perilous due to attacks of security risk. The nickname Highway Hell reflects the high level. No, that's not it. That's not it. Hold on. What was the highway? Hold on. I'm going to go to Wikipedia. Hold on. Highway. Uh, Highway of Death. That's what it's called. Highway of Death. The Highway of Death is a 6-lane highway between Kuwait and Iraq, officially known as Highway 80. It runs from Kuwait City to the border town of Safwan in Iraq, and then on to the Iraq city of Basra. The road was used by the Iraqi Armed Division for the 1990 invasion of Kuwait. It was repaired after the Gulf War, used by the U.S. and the British forces in the initial stages of the 2003 invasion. But here's the thing. So the Call of Duty game literally makes it out that Russia did this like atrocity, right? Because this was literally a war crime. So basically, where is this at? The attack began when A-6 intruder attack jets of the United States Marine Corps 3rd Marine Aircraft Wing blocked the head of the tail column of the Highway 80, bombarding a massive vehicle column of mostly Iraqi regular army forces with MK-20 Rockeye, what is this? 2 cluster bombs, effectively boxing in the Iraqi forces in an enormous traffic jam as a turkey shoot began in earnest. So basically, they had a caravan that was leaving. Where is this at? During the American-led coalition offensive, what is this? Persian Gulf, American, Canadian, British, and French aircraft and ground forces attacked retreating Iraqi military personnel attempting to leave Kuwait on the night of February 26th to 27th, 1991, resulting in the destruction of hundreds of vehicles and the deaths of many of the occupants. Between 1,400 to 2,000 vehicles were hit or bombarded on the main highway 80 north of Al Jahra. Right, so these are retreating Iraqi troops leaving Kuwait. To drive, they can drive on this highway from Kuwait, which is further south, to like the interior of Iraq, Baghdad or whatever. And so they were retreating, and what does it say? There were hundreds of cars destroyed, soldiers screaming. It was a nighttime as the bombs fell, lighting up charred cars, bodies on the side of the road, and soldiers sprawled on the ground, hit by cluster bombs as they tried to escape from their vehicles. I saw hundreds of soldiers like this, but my main target was to reach Basra. We arrived on foot. Yeah, so basically they were retreating, and then U.S. forces were like, "Hey, fuck it, like let's just go in there and just kill them all." right? Which in Call of Duty is even recognized as a war crime. Here's controversial. In 2019 video game Call of Duty Modern Warfare, a similarly bombarded road in the fictional Middle Eastern country of Urzikstan is named the Highway of Death. In this instance, the attack is carried out by Russian forces, which led the accusations against the game as historical revisionism, which it 100% was. However, in the game, the targets were civilian, whereas the original event, which inspired this game level, was largely the Iraqi military being targeted during their withdrawal from Kuwait. You see? So, what was I saying? Hold on. It'll come to me. Again, if that was the first time that you were hearing of that event, right? It goes to show you what we're not taught in school, right? And I'm saying it's 2023. That happened in 1991. Have any of you heard of that? No, you haven't heard of that. You know what I mean? So again, when we're talking about the U.S. government, Western powers destabilizing these areas and destabilizing these regions, and then they're complaining about terrorism when the Western powers have been terrorizing, these other areas of the world, which is why they're getting an influx, of migrants. Right? Because America, it's shown all on TV, or even Europe is shown all on TV. And it's easy to be that when you've been screwing over other groups, again, for your benefit at their expense, so that you live these first world conditions, and then you plaster it all over the media, and you got your commercials, and you got your products and all that other stuff. Yeah, that does look like it's the place to be. Even though many of these people, they should have got their, as black people like to call, nigga wake up call a long time ago, because it's like they don't want you, right? People just think that, white supremacy operates on anti-blackness only. No, it operates on anti-non-whiteness. But a lot of those other groups of people, the Latinos and the Arabs and shit, they haven't gotten that memo yet, right? Y'all remember that Iraqi guy that was like, just Donald Trump, I want Donald Trump president, yes, Donald Trump and shit. That motherfucker was like, no people coming in from Muslim countries, right? And when he said that, I'm like, oh no, nigga, that's what you supported. You supported Donald Trump. Then when he was like, nah, we don't want no Muslims over here. Then it was like, oh shit, now you looking dumb. You know what I mean? I know the clip is somewhere. Maybe I'll put it in the description, but I know the clip of that Iraqi guy, talking about Donald Trump. Yeah, Donald Trump. And Donald Trump was like, I'm preventing people from coming here from Muslim countries. You know what I mean? They haven't gotten they quote unquote nigga wake up call yet. You know what I mean? They just think it's all about anti-blackness. Then when they come to, the West, or they come to America, they think that they can get in good with the white people by shitting on black people. Oh, we shit on black people because we see white people shitting on black people all the time. Oh man, well then maybe we'll become honorary white people. Wrong. You know what I mean? The shit is fucking hilarious. But, like, white people don't give shit any fucking context. And again, if you're not careful, if you just sit around and you listen to white people's propaganda and their news and their shit, and you and they're talking about, like, just like that, the freaking, what was his name? Charlie Cheon. You know what I mean? That little Asian guy, the little Korean, talking about, what are we doing to white people? I mean, what are we doing? And white people, like, again, white people catnip. I mean, they were just over there just jerking off. They're just, oh, yes, Charlie, all over your face. You know what I mean? Like, they were just busting nuts on their computer screen, when Charlie Cheon came out with that video. Again, like, these people literally want to be, intellectually ahistorical. And like I told you, even when it comes to African Americans, you start talking about reparations for slavery and how that's impacted the African American community when it comes to slavery and the legacy of Jim Crow. You know what I mean? All these white people want to act like American history for African Americans literally started in 1985. You know what I mean? Like Black American history starts with like Michael Jackson like doing the moonwalk for the first time or something like that, right? Which I know was like a few years earlier, but still, like they always wanted like that is their idea and concept of Black America. I mean, friggin' the 1960s and how black people were treated back then. Oh, man, that's ancient history. You know what I mean? But then you start talking about Pearl Harbor, which was 20 years before that, and then they're like, never forget, never forget, no, never forget. Yeah, I mean, I swear, like, people think I'm joking when I say that white people are pathological. Y'all think I'm joking. I mean, Amazing Lucas takes it a step further, and he's like, they come from a lineage of evil. You know what I mean? He takes it, he goes that route. I just say that they're pathological because I'm like, you come up with a whole media machine, you know what I mean? And this is where, like, I know I talk about, black people, like, you got to get off of the right and wrong shit a lot of times, you know what I mean? But I just can't, regardless of how much I want to see black people do, I just couldn't be that intellectually dishonest like that. Like I can't sit there and look at something and just tell a big fat fib, like just a big fat lie. You know what I mean? And then like sleep at night. Like I like you know what I'm saying? Like I'm like, why they're coming there, because you destabilize their regions. That's why they're coming there. And you have no intention of correcting, the things that you did to stabilize their regions so that they stay in their regions. You have no desire, to go and do that. So I'm like, it's like what I say when I talk about, I'm like, oh, no reparations. Oh, you're just going to continue doing, okay, well, hashtag get carjacked. Get carjacked then. America has the black people it deserves. And Europe has the migrant populations that they deserved and the radicalized, Muslim youth that they deserve. You freaking bring the parents in there to exploit them, and then the kids are born there, and then you got nothing for them. You got nothing for them. They speak the language, they know the culture. You know what I mean? Like they're not like the parents. The parents are going to be like all immigrant parents are. Oh, okay. Okay. You know what I mean? They'll be living in that country for 20 years and speak broken, whatever the language is of the country that they freaking go. They don't know what's going on like that. All they know is they got the boomer mentality. I get up and I go to work every day. Like that's all they have. Right? But the kids are like, well, I see the white kids. It's like, well, why can't I have that? Why can't I live like that? Why can't I have a more decent quality of life? Oh, silence, because you're an Arab Muslim. That you can't have that. You can't have that. And so, I mean, it's just like with what is this? Pete, what's his name? Patrick. I'm talking about what is it? Is it PBD? Whatever. Remember he was arguing with Roland Martin. I can't think. Valuetainment dude. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Where he's up there talking, oh, I came to America, they're hard working, all this other bullshit. And I'm like, yeah, nobody's taking that away from you, but you're sitting here ignoring the reality that of how your family was like why they had to move in the first place. Maybe you could have been equally as successful in, not Iraq, Iran. Maybe you could have been equally as successful in Iran. But again, when you get into all of the meddling that the West did, which is why your parents had to flee and go to Germany, and then from Germany they came to America. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, destabilization. Yeah, but again, white folks, and they're not gonna, they like, I don't know, like when I see the new shit, I'm like, how many of them know this history? I know that there's a lot of white people that don't know the history, but I don't know how they would process it if they knew the history, right? If they even consider it, because I come across way more white people that have this self-righteous indignation, that somehow like they are the victims and that all these other people are anti-white and that Western civilization, look at the awesomeness that white people have created, and we're just going to totally gloss over the exploitation of other groups of people. That we took their lands, we took their resources, we extracted labor from them. We're just going to ignore all of that as to why when you look at the earth at nighttime, freaking Europe and North America are like freaking bright lights everywhere, but then you go to Africa, you go to the Middle East, there's significantly less lights, right? When you look, around these other places, in the world. Right? It's like, why is that? Is it because Europeans are just so awesome? Like I said before, like European ingenuity is only matched by their savagery. And see, they love the ingenuity part. They're like, yes, we are an ingenious group of people, right? But then when you talk about their savagery, right? When you talk about their bloodthirst, when you talk about the evil, that they have caused, around the world, like what famine happened in India underneath the British? It's one of the fucking viceroys. One of the most devastating famines in India during British colonial rule was the Great Famine in 1876 to 1878. The famine, also known as Madras Famine of 1877, was the result of a combination of factors, including crop failures, drought, and economic policies implemented by the British colonial administration. During this period, millions of people in India, particularly in the southern and western regions, suffered from food shortages and famine-related deaths. The British response to the famine has been criticized for its inadequate relief efforts and policies that exacerbated the crisis. So, anyway, like this shit is fucked up. It's fucked up. And white people, all they want you to think of is when you look at Europe, I mean, just look at it. Look at all the bright lights and the skyscrapers. It's because we're awesome, right? But the history, like they don't want to talk about history. That's why they don't want to have conversations about the darker side of their history, right? The CRT. Why, other people, are behind, right? They don't want to have that conversation. What they have done. No, nope. All these people, they say that we're racist, but they want to come to Europe because they recognize the how awesome our civilization is. No, they recognize that you guys have all the resources and they're trying to get it however they can get it. You've already destabilized their regions, and ground them in the dust. What other choice do they have? Anyway, that's my video. SWP out. Don't forget to comment, share, like, and subscribe.